So I was born on MacDill Air Force Base. So I think we were there until I was about 3. And then we
Okay.
moved to Spain, and we were in Spain for 5 years. My sister was born on the base in Spain. Then we came back, and we were in Florida for a couple of years. Then I was in New York for a year, and then I was in Maryland. So if I had to stake claim to somewhere, it would be Maryland. That's the longest time I lived anywhere, which was like 10 years.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's hard as a military child to, claim somewhere,
Yeah.
even though I've only lived in 3 places. Like, I claim part of Ohio, I claim part of Texas, I claim part of Florida because,
Yeah,
I live here now. But it's so hard to pick somewhere.
I know. But I think when you're military like that, you pick the most formative time. So for
Hmm.
me, that was like middle school through high school.
Right.
So, like there was moving in between there, and the schools always seem to change, but that's probably where I grew up. So that's what I consider hometown. I know the back roads. So,
Yeah. It makes it better then. So,
yep, absolutely. I do remember so I remember when we first got there, we lived on like the 14th floor of like this huge building, and we had like a little balcony that overlooked like a square. And I would just remember being little and sitting up on the balcony at night, like it was dark, and watching just all the people in the square. It would be like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and all the families would be out with their kids, their dogs. It was just like that's how their culture was. Like
right.
I remember in the middle of the day, everything being closed, like for siesta, like from 1 to like 4. You couldn't go anywhere, do anything.
Yeah.
Like all the businesses were closed. And I remember the bread. They had the best bread. And you used to be able to get it from like the little cart on the corner, and it'd be like wrapped in newspaper. It was so good. And then I remember when we moved kind of into more like a base housing with like a duplex where we were on the bottom and somebody lived like above us. And I remember that was like the first time that I truly truly remember like having friends, because
Yeah.
there was a little girl who lived up the street and like around the corner, and her dad was military too, and I didn't know people weren't military. Like that
Yeah.
just wasn't a thing, because at like 5 or 6, you just assume that everybody you meet kind of understands what's going on. That's not the case though.
No, sadly, it's not. It would be so much easier if it were that way, but
Right? Agreed. I think the first time I had an experience where being a military child really affected my friendships was 8th grade. And I think it was the first time that I would say that I had really good friends. Like I had
yeah,
one really good friend that I would spend like every weekend with. Like we were inseparable. And I
right.
remember when my dad told me that he got orders for a TDY for a year to Korea, and that we could not go with him, and that I would have to go move in with my mom while he was gone, which was a turbulent relationship as it stood on its own. And I was like, no, I'm not going. I'm staying here with my stepmom, and you can't make me go.
Mhm.
And not wanting to tell my friends that I had to leave.
Yeah.
And my brother, because we were all in school together. So my stepbrother said something to one of his friends, who said something to one of their friends, and she got mad at me and like stopped talking to me. Like we
Yeah.
were no longer friends because I didn't tell her. But it wasn't that I didn't want her to know, it was that I didn't know how to have that conversation. Like usually it was oh, I'm going to go and live with my mom for a year. Like trying to explain to somebody that even though my family will still be here, because my
Mhm.
stepmom and my siblings would still be there, but I wouldn't be there, was really difficult for me. So, in the end of it all, we didn't end up being friends after that, but that was the only time I can remember being a military child really having an effect on my relationships in that manner. And I'll tell you, I was a lot more careful after that. And it
Yeah.
was hard to explain like why I was sad. People couldn't understand like why I was sad. Like my mom didn't understand why I was sad because I was with her.
Yeah.
And my sister didn't understand why I was sad. She was 5 years younger than me because she just didn't really kind of grasp like the magnitude of what was happening.
Sure.
Um, so it was hard. And I remember that spring break, my mom and my stepmom had talked, and so we were going to go and see them and my stepbrothers and sisters for like spring break, Easter, and my dad was there, and I didn't know that he would be there. And I remember like coming through the front door to see him, and I had like a caboodle in my hand. And I saw him at the top of the stairs, and everything I had in my hands just hit the floor.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm running up the stairs. I have tears streaming down my face. There's makeup and stuff just like everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm bawling, and I'm like, please tell me you're home. Like, I just want to come home. And he's like, babe, I'm only here for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And then,
I
you
have to go
know,
back.
yeah. And like that was, oh, yeah, it was killer. Like you don't think. So it just gives me a whole like different perspective on relationships and family than I think a lot of people who are civilian have. Like it
Sure.
they I don't mean it, in a bad way, but they kind of take it for granted that the person that they love is always just going to be a phone call away or just a 2-hour drive, and sometimes they're halfway across the world. Yeah, deployment was really hard. And I think as I got older and like truly understood the reason my dad did deployments made it even harder. So my dad knew that we moved around a lot, and he knew that it was hard on our friendships and our relationships. And, my dad said something to me um, at his retirement ceremony. I mean, he was in for 27 years. He said, at his retirement ceremony, like, this, like what I've done, like the career that I've had, it's all been able to happen because of the family that I have. Like you
Yeah.
all served like right next to me. So my dad won. I say like he won a race. My dad, I should say he earned an airman's medal, which is like the highest medal of honor that you can get in in peacetime.
Hmm.
They were, I want to say he was at a picnic or they were outside, and there was a Korean pilot. The plane went to take off, and the landing gear, I guess, did not, like the gear that they come up over was up instead of down. And so the plane crashed.
Wow.
And so he went and pulled the pilot out of the plane. And it wasn't until he got home and he was telling the story, and he's like, and I pulled him out and we pulled him over to safety and CPR, all of this. And then he's like, and then I realized I was wet, like, and I couldn't figure out why I was wet. It was the gas from the plane.
Wow.
Like, and I remember being so mad at him. I was like, you seriously ran through glass, through the
Yeah.
gas, knowing that there could be an explosion. You're covered in gas to pull some guy you don't even know out of a plane. Like, what? Don't you know that you're married and have children? Like, that's so unsafe. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But the fact that he didn't even give it a second thought, like, that's
Yeah.
just what he did. I think that speaks volumes of our military personnel, of what they do and their thought pattern. Like in the moment, they're just thinking about what they have to do. And
Yes.
the consequences of whatever that isn't going to come until afterwards. And he was lucky, like he didn't get injured, but it very easily could have gone the other way. And I just remember being so mad and not truly like being willing to forgive him for that for like quite a while. I was like, seriously, you almost killed yourself for somebody else? Like, what? You weren't gonna come home to me? Like,
Yeah.
hello, dad, I'm here. Like,
Yeah. And it's so hard to even understand the thought process that he was probably going through at the time, because their main focus is to save other people.
yep.
And in the military, everything else comes first. And, as a soldier,
Hmm.
you come second.
Yep.
And you don't have that chance to even stop, take a second and think, okay, if
Nope.
I go and do this, I'm going to be covered in gas, something can happen and I can die.
Yep.
Like, you don't
Not
have
even a
that
thought.
second. No.
Nope. Not even a thought.
Yeah.
I have to say the biggest thing is consistency. Like I feel like that's like the biggest difference between a military family and a civilian family is the consistency you can give to your child in the area that you're in and the family you have around them.
Yeah.